Hey, what's up, everyone? Morey Croson here. Thanks so much for being here. Really excited about doing this today. We're going to be talking about finishing more on your sprinting. I also am going to start adding in some more audio to make it so we could get a little bit more just spicing it up in these videos. So if this is the first video that you've watched, this is what we do. We help athletes in being able to improve their speed and just get a better understanding of their sprinting mechanics, what's important when it comes to sprinting in order to make it so you can really achieve at the highest level. And what we're going to be looking at here is this is from the 2020 Olympics and just getting a better understanding of how to finish the race more effectively. And what we're going to be looking at, or who we're going to be looking at, is Su Chin. This is one of the best the best 60 meter ever, but one of the best starts ever. And then we have who eventually won the Olympics in Marcel Jacobs. And then we also have Ronnie Baker, who came in second here and at many times ended up being either competitive or right there at the top in terms of who got to the fastest top speed. So we're going to really be looking at all three of those people. Thanks again for watching, and let's add in a little bit of a applause here. Thank you for showing up. So with this, what I think ends up being important is we want to be able to understand that when you are going through acceleration and end at top speed, there's a different type of force vector that ends up being generated. So you start off much more in the horizontal force vector, or using much more horizontal force, which is more about getting width or getting more distance per step. And so what we see with Su Chin here is he does a really good job of getting that first step down and really going out. So he's already on the second step. He's about to be transitioning off as some of these guys are landing on their second step. Same thing, 3, 4. These are all what's called horizontal force production or horizontal force strikes. And there's a concept, it's called the force velocity curve, or it's a part of sprinting. And essentially it shows people as they're going through the race. It looks something like this typically, right? And this ends up being the amount of horizontal force that ends up being created, and this is time, right? And so, and when you're first starting, obviously we have 0, and then it spikes, and then it kind of drops down, and then it maintains over a period of time. And so this is an important thing to be able to understand when it comes to understanding why am I able to accelerate well, but then have a hard time in being able to hold the speed, because that's always the situation. Right? There's not people that are like, oh yeah, I have a not great start, and then I'm also having a hard time finishing. It's always I'm starting great, I get out the blocks great, but then I have a hard time at the end of the race. And so what do I need to do? How can I improve that? Why can't I get all the way into like a full 100 and have a lot of success? And this is really the reason why, is the force velocity curve and what is happening within the force velocity curve. And I just want to explain that a little bit more in depth as we go through here. So when we look to see Su Chin here, he starts off, again, one of the best 60s ever. And for the first 30, he's obviously accelerating at a very high rate. This means that he ends up generating a lot of force very early on. I'm going to split this up and say that this is Lamont Jacobs' kind of force velocity curve, or what I would expect to be his force velocity curve in comparison to Su Chin, where we're going to get more of like a very steep horizontal force, but then not able to maintain that over a very good period of time, where Lamont Jacobs is going to be more of this type of a thing. Okay. And so that ends up being the difference when it comes to the changes that we're going to see within athletes that are able to run really fast, right? So we have like a Su Chin who's able to get to his top speed very quickly, has a great acceleration, in comparison to somebody like a Lamont Jacobs who's able to finish at a very high level. While his start isn't bad by any means, it's just not the same in terms of how he's trying to develop speed. And that ends up being, I think, an important distinction that you want to be able to really have as an athlete, because I think that really Su Chin, Christian Coleman, some of these guys lean into having great 60s, having great acceleration, because that ends up being a big strength. And I do say that that could be a great argument for being more effective within your first few steps, and really putting a big focus on your ability to accelerate could end up being a great thing to make it so you can have a lot of success as a sprinter. So some people just need to not get too caught up in the finish, and instead really lean into having a great start and getting a lot better within that start to make it so you can run a great 30 or a great 60 and then just be able to maintain that speed for the end because of what some of their acceleration mechanics or some of the strengths may be within the running, right? With like Su Bing Chin, he's very strong, very explosive. And so again, he's using that to get himself a great lead, and then he's just kind of holding on at the end to make it so he ends up being able to finish up. He's really just trying to maintain the speed the best that he can, because everybody gets to around here and then ends up starting to slow down, right? So you're at 60 meters ish, or 60 to 80 meters, somewhere in there. The last 20 meters, even for Lamont Jacobs, he's slowing down, right? He got up to his top speed already, but he's not slowing down at the same rate as Su Bing Chin, right? Or he's not slowing down at the same rate as Ronnie Baker. And so that's why he's able to have a great finish here, is because he ends up holding his horizontal force for a longer period of time to make it so then the finish ends up being a lot stronger than Su Bing Chin, who's able to get to his top speed a lot faster, but then ended up kind of dwindling down a lot more, right? Loss of greater percentage of the top speed. So let's say, we have actually some data that can show what the speeds were. So he was at 39.1 this is at 30 meters, 39.1. Ronnie Baker, 39.2. And then we have, obviously, Lamont Jacobs, 38.8. Those are the main people we're looking at here. And then we take this to 60 meters, and we could see 42.7, 42 even, 41.8. Okay. And so that ends up showing a big picture of like, this is now he's at a lot greater speed, right? Su Bing Chin this might be his top speed, 42. Where Lamont Jacobs, he got up to, I think 42.8 was what it said. Oh yeah, so 42.2, where he got up to, Lamont Jacobs got up to 42.8, Ronnie Baker got up to 42.6, but that just happened later on. So 42.2 was probably about right around that 60-meter mark, going back to here, okay, where Lamont Jacobs, he's still going to go up, he's going to get up to 42.8, but then his deceleration is going to go down to from 42.8 down to 42.6, 42.4, maybe even 42.2, right? As he's going down to cross the finish line, I'm sure around the finish line, because he's at 42.7 here. So I'm sure around the finish line, he's probably about 42 kilometers an hour to maybe 45 kilometers an hour, which is about 26 miles an hour, in case you're wondering, right? So 42 kilometers an hour is the same as about 26 miles an hour, 26.09. And so when he's up to 42.8, or let's say 43, he was getting up to, 26.7 miles an hour. So he was able to get all the way up there. And then as he was going in and starting to get to the end of the race, we're seeing not as speeding up, right? Because I think some people have the idea that like he is gaining speed here. He's not gaining speed. He's just not decelerating as quickly. He already hit his top speed. Okay. Same thing as Ronnie Baker. It's just that Su Bing Chin is decelerating at a lot higher rate again than these other guys, and that's what makes so then Lamont Jacob ends up going in and being able to withstand. And that's where you, if you're watching this, where you can improve. So when it comes to really answering the question of this video, how can I improve my finish? First, I would say work on the start. Get better at your acceleration, lean into your acceleration, especially if you really see that as a strength, because if it is a strength, then you really want to be able to, again, lean into that a lot more, be able to get great within that first 30, great within that first 60. And then you want to be really putting a focus on improving horizontal force production. That ends up being the biggest thing here, is how can you continue to utilize your horizontal force production as you are sprinting, as you're gaining speed, to make it so you can continue to gain speed over a long period of time, and therefore really have a great ability to perform at a high level. And so I would say that ends up being the name of the game, right? Really think about length, right? Work on length. And a lot of times what I tell people is just work on like your flies, right? So like 10-meter flies, you want to try to be able to get 10 meters, right? So measure out 10 meters. You want to try to get that in probably like 4.5 steps. Okay, as close to 4.5 steps as possible. Depending on your height, you may end up needing to only get 5 steps. But, if you can get down into 4 steps, that's great. And then 20 meters, right? Maybe 9 steps, right? Okay, that would be a good thing to be able to get to. 20 meters, 9 steps. So working on the ability to generate, again, that horizontal force. Because if you're getting too vertical, then 10 meters is going to be closer to 5 steps, or 20 meters is going to be closer to 10 steps. And that's a great way to be able to understand, am I generating too much vertical force or enough horizontal force? And again, that's, I think, an effective way. Then also can go to 30 meters. 30 meters, I think, would be the most in terms of your flies that you want to really look at. And you want to probably be 14 and a half, maybe 15. Okay, let's say maybe 15 steps for 30 meters. So you're essentially covering 2 meters per step. Okay, a little bit more would be, I think, best case scenario. And again, if you can get 30 meters in 14 steps, more power to you. That's going to be a way for you to practice and improve your ability to finish, right? And so what you'd want to look at is within maybe 50 meters to 80 meters, am I able to cover that in 14 steps? Okay, or 60 to 80 meters, am I able to cover that in 9 steps? And that's a good way for you to be able to get great acceleration and then understand how to be able to more effectively finish. Because again, you're not going to be able to be still speeding up after 60 meters. So that's not the goal. The goal is to be able to continue to accelerate to 60, but then be able to maintain speed, right? Relax. That's where like that type of mentality comes into, is that last 40 meters where you're really able to open up and relax and have great foot contact time, have great mechanics, things like that. But again, prioritize acceleration, lean into having great acceleration, be more effective at getting into your top speed, try to make it so you get to your top speed as late as possible. And then once you get to that position, try to make it so you're slowing down as slowly as possible. And that's going to be the best way to be able to finish. And that's really a clear understanding of why you're having a hard time with your ability to finish races. So as always, if you like the information, click that thumbs up down below, subscribe to the channel. If you have any questions, comments, or recommendations, you can leave those down below. And also check out some of the things we have in the description in terms of our programs and things that we can help you in improving your mechanics, improving your start. You send over a video, we'll go and analyze, we'll look at it, give you some data, things like this to be able to understand exercises. We have customized programs. We have so many things to help out sprinters. This is really what I love to do. I tell people this all the time. This is what I'm passionate about. This is what I want to be able to do my whole life, is really master the ability to perform at a high level and be able to do that in really all areas of life, but most importantly, from a sprinting perspective. Again, like, subscribe, check out the description. We'll talk to you soon.